All right, we are back. It is Friday at the 2019 Austin Film Festival, and I'm talking to Elizabeth Newman,
Hi.
who you are working on the playwriting track this year.
I am, yes. I'm one of the panelists for a roundtable tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, that's called the art and craft of playwriting?
So art and craft and business.
Playwriting. Okay, yeah. So, but you're like kind of the Jill of all trades, the Jacqueline of all trades in theater, because you're a director and producer as well, right?
Do, yes.
And then you write your own work.
So I am a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. I write and direct for film. I'm not a playwright. I love collaborating with playwrights. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm here as a panelist for the playwriting track. I also have a short script that was part of a second rounder, like on the film side. So
yeah,
I'm the co-president of the emerging chapter of Women in Film, Austin.
Way to go.
So I'm wearing like a Jacqueline of all the hats.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
All berets, right?
Hey, a woman's work, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Never done.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I love that we have a playwriting track here at Austin Film Festival, because it's nice to see that link between those two arts recognized.
Yes. No, it absolutely is. And I've been fortunate. I was able to be a panelist on the roundtable last year. It had a similar theme, and so some of the playwrights that I met doing the roundtable last year have reached out, and I've read their work in the intervening year and had coffee with some of them or breakfast with one this morning, and it's been wonderful to hear how their work has developed. And I was speaking with one playwright today who I met last year, who she said, in this past year, some of my short plays have now turned into short films, and there's one that's in a short festival that's playing also this weekend in a different location.
Oh, it's like your young children, your little darlings.
Yes, who are like lovely artists, like
grown people.
Grown people, but it's so nice to have an opportunity to collaborate and to meet and to get to know and build relationships with playwrights and screenwriters, and to really talk with them of how the different arts inform each other. And like for me as a director, since I work in both mediums,
sure,
to sort of how one influences and informs the other. But same thing with writers that I'm working with, how they build on each other.
I've always wondered if people that started in playwriting that move over to screenwriting, I'm kind of like, is it culture shock? Because when you're a playwright, like the word is the holy turf, and
sure
you don't cut a word of it.
You must be word perfect actors.
But if you're a screenwriter and you hand over your script to a director, you may not recognize it at the end of the day.
That's true, and that can happen. I did just go to Sarah Green's panel just before, and I loved how much she emphasized as an amazing independent creative producer, how much respect she has for the writer, for the screenwriter. I mean, she works with a lot of amazing auteurs, but I think carries into the space of film that same reverence for, well, not preciousness, but respect for writers. But it's true that oftentimes on set things have to change because of logistics, or what you're facing on the day, or there isn't the same. I love to have when I'm directing film too. I love to sort of treat it like a play, and have, if I have the luxury of having time rehearsing with actors beforehand, and doing the table work and plumbing the depths, and then and discovering at that stage if dialogue needs to change, or if things need to, it's like workshopping a play, but before a film. But sometimes you don't have that opporumbut so it's like, oh boy,
it's
we
like,
didn't catch this before.
We're not rehearsing here. We're just going.
And like, this needs to change, and like, writer, can you do this? But I imagine some of it must be a bit culture shock, and it's interesting.
Have you ever had actors kind of have the culture shock moment? I mean, it's not so much a thing now, because people do go back and forth pretty regularly between film and theater, but once upon a time that was not the case. Right. You had your Broadway actors and you had your Hollywood actors, and ne'er the two shall meet.
I think the person who said this best, many years ago when I was in college, we brought Frances McDormand to at Yale. We had this thing called Master's Teas, where like we'd have like amazing people come and speak to us in a small group and drink tea and all that things. But and she really put it best because so she had the question as an amazing, talented, wonderful actor. She's like, how is it working on stage and working on film? And she said, it's working the same muscle. It's it's the same skill. It's working the same muscle, but on stage, it's pumping iron. It's heavy lifting.
Right.
And on film, it's like isometric. So it's the same muscle, but it's just the small, and it's coming from the same source, right? But it's just the smallest movement.
Right.
That is intense and gets to the same place, but it's
Nope, we don't know that.
I sure love a rehearsal room, but it's the isometrics, right? So it's the same muscle, and I thought that was just such a brilliant way of describing, the craft of acting. For with the camera, just you're not playing to the back of the house. It picks up your thought. The camera picks up your thoughts.
Is she Yale School of Drama as well?
She was. I think she was the drama school.
Okay.
I was there undergrad, but she's a Yale.
So I was not intending to ask this to you, but I've been asking asked someone this morning, and now I'm inspired because you've had that formal training and education. I'm trying to kind of work out in my own head because people come to this industry from everywhere.
Sure.
But there's kind of this debate between, people who say like, you don't need any kind of formal education. You don't need school. Just watch some movies or watch some plays and then go do it. It's fine. And then we have other people come in who have M.F.As and, even doctoral work and have worked as professors. And, it's hard to...
Yeah.
Neither person is wrong.
Yeah, people have different paths, right? So for me, undergrad, I was theater and art history dual major, and then I did do my M.F.A. in film. So undergrad, it's a BA, right? It's not a BFA,
right?
Because they felt it was very important to have a well-rounded,
more general
education.
Sure.
And I said, go learn about the world so that you can make art about it.
Right.
And then but in the time between undergrad and grad school, I went directly, but in that summer and summers when I was in college, I did get practical experience interning at film production companies in New York and working on professional sets and kind of, I think that practical understanding, because it is such an industry that is based on apprenticeship and some, if you have the luxury of being able to work on a bunch of sets while you are in film school, and like as long as you, I think, can appreciate like the luxury of somebody saying, here's a camera. We shot on film, like we shot on 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
So like editing on a steam bag.
Real film.
Yeah.
No.
We shot on film. But actually, which was great discipline of like, here's your one can, like make decisions. Sort of, you couldn't just shoot forever and from every angle.
Right.
You had to have some forethought. So now the you just hand someone your phone, like, here's a camera, go make a movie.
Let's do it 18 times.
Yeah.
No problem.
But I think if film school is definitely not a waste of time. But I think if one is in a position to really understand it for the luxury that it is of really immersing yourself in film history and in theater history, and go see art and go listen to music and understand how all the arts work together, then it's time to just steep yourself in the art, and then if you can get some practical understanding and some humility and understanding how it works in real life too.
Well, you have a multidisciplined approach. Like you mentioned, you have an undergrad in art history and then an MFA in film, and you were an actor as once.
Yes,
once as well.
Yes, and so undergrad I was theater. I was performance major and art history. But I studied dance growing up as well, and I think. As you said, people come from all different backgrounds. Some people come from very much the technical side.
Sure.
People come from, I've worked with wonderful cinematographers who kind of find their way to directing from that. For me, I remember being really excited the first time kind of behind the camera, because I did photography in high school as well. I was like, oh gosh, it's like choreography and photography and theater all together all happening at the same time, and then working with composer friends to like feel the music.
Let's talk a little bit more about your full-time gig. We were talking before we turned the camber on about
our secret pre-talk.
Yes, the pre-interview. Yes, no, not really. Yes. But about your work as the artistic director at the Filigree Theater here in Austin, and talking about you're really a mobile theater company. You work in multiple spaces.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about your work there.
Sure. Yeah. So Filigree, we've just started our third season, and the company's mission is that we do 3 shows a year: fall, winter, and spring. And our fall show is part of the theater canon, theater history.
Sure.
Our winter shows are playwrights living and working today, and then our spring shows are new works and world premieres. So it's like fall, winter, spring, like past, present, future. And then each season is connected by an overarching theme.
Okay.
Because the word filigree comes from like seed and thread, or like my Latin nerd.
Yale.
Mr. Kisner, high school Latin teacher. Actually, I had to look that up. But so our work is very much about growing work in Austin and sort of like understanding our connection to the past, but then also like planting the seeds for the future.
Sure.
And here in Austin, our first season was at one theater over here in East Austin. Our second season was at a different space in East Austin, and this season, our third season, the theme this year is fear and fearlessness. And our fall show, which just was last weekend, was an unusually short season because it all took place in a house. And it was written about 40, 50 years ago to be written in a house and for the audience to be in the space with the actors. In the middle section, it almost felt like a film set, as I was saying before.
Right, it's so tight.
It's like, the whole house is like a hot set, right? So there's most of it takes place in the living room, but then the middle section, there are 4 different scenes. One takes place in a bedroom, one in a kitchen, and one in a study, and one outside. And the audience has been split up into 4 different groups, and they rotate through the different scenes. So it was an unusual tech week. Usually in theater, you've done your table work, you've done your rehearsing, and by the time you get to tech, it's all about the lighting design, it's all about building the set, maybe the sound design. But here, there was no tech. I mean, it was the set design of basically art department came in and dressed the set to be like the 1930s.
You're like light switch.
Yeah, totally. It was like our sound design. Our sound design was, we had a record player and a record, and the needle went on the record.
Like we're gonna turn the ceiling fans off for this one, and try it that way.
Exactly, yeah, totally. But so it was great. It got to be an opportunity of like bodies in space, and for the actors to really live in. And the first rehearsal, because we rehearsed at my house, because it would be before we moved into the location, because that would be a much closer analog to our final location than like a rehearsal studio. And the first time my actresses, it's a cast of 8 women who are all lovely and brilliantly talented, and it was a joy to work with all of them. The first time that there's a scene where in the beginning they're coming in from the outside, the first time they're like, oh, we're actually going to use the real front door to like come into rehearsal, right? So like out they go to Enfield Road, and out
it works.
And they're like, okay, or I'm actually like shouting outside to
the door leads somewhere.
Yes,
it's not to the
yes. There was like no wings
into the curtain.
Yeah, totally. They're like, oh, it's a real door. So I think that was a fun adjustment, and then it did feel like for our tech week that we were almost like shooting on location.
Yeah, that's what I was going to, it's like working on a sound stage versus
Totally.
like, and now we're into the location sets.
Exactly. And so it was like, the most filmy theater tech week we had.
How does that work with I'm presuming you worked with, they're typically theater actors rather than film actors. How did that work for them going from, the organized proscenium to, and now we're in a living room?
Yeah. So I think, and luckily a lot of them have worked in both spaces, and some of my cast had worked. I mean, this play was written well before immersive theater became sort of a trend, but some had worked in site-specific or immersive theater, and advised, and I gave it a big thumbs up and said yes, please. That their advisor, fellow castmates, like, remember to be really solid on your lines, because you don't have the safety of being on stage with the bright lights, with the audience in somewhere out there in the dark. Even in intimate, I tend to direct in kind of black box and intimate, like chamber theater.
Sure.
But even then, there's that separation. Right? Here, it really was almost like in the round. We had audience on all three sides.
I'm gonna watch you say your lines from right here.
Well, exactly. I mean, and really, and we had one actor has to make a lot of entrances and exits in a wheelchair, and so it was like she had to both be in the world, but then also make sure to navigate the turn, and she did it brilliantly. I said she could drive my car whenever she would like, around to make sure she's also not rolling over anybody's toes,
right,
and like right at the right angle so that she can turn around. One of my many Jacqueline hats.
One of the many hats is tipped to you.
They're all like, off to my brilliant cast. For just living and breathing in that space and holding the world of the play with the audience being right here.
Yeah.
What
do you think, as a person that works in both I want to say genres, in both mediums, what do you think of seeing theater on film? Like, the past few years, we've seen several modern plays, and now Netflix has The King, bringing Shakespeare onto film, which is done every once in a while, but usually in kind of a reimagined setting. I remember seeing at the Austin Film Festival, like 5 years ago, we did Coriolanus with Ray Fiennes, and it's reimagined in Bosnia.
Yes.
And so this one, I think, with Timothy Chalamet, I think it's going to be like the classical setting, England back in the 1400s. Yeah. But what do you think of theater on film?
I think it's so interesting. I think that there are so many examples of it being well done. I think it's something that sometimes people are scared to touch, because it's like, it's film. Oh no, they're going to do so much talking. And oh no, it's going to be people in a room talking, and like, we don't want to do that on film. But I feel like there are ways of sort of, and it's tricky, and I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do, but a way of retaining the heart of the story, or the heart of the play, but finding ways of, they say, like opening it up, or like reimagining some things, but holding on to that essence of the play. And I really enjoyed the film Loose that was out with Naomi Watts and Tim Roth, which was many years ago. I was Tim's assistant on Funny Games.
Oh, how cool.
Which was Tim and Naomi's. I was like, they're a couple again, and they're not getting, chopped to death. Like,
always a plus.
Right, yeah. But I thought that was I hadn't seen the play, but I believe that the playwright was involved in creating that, and holding on to the questions that are raised, but it was a film that very much felt like a film, even though its origins had come from, I imagine, I hadn't read the play, but I imagine a much more contained environment.
Do you think, I mean, I guess plays that are, the modern plays like, I mentioned Doubt and Fences and Raisin in the Sun, I don't know. I guess I feel like they probably lend themselves to film a little bit more easily. And maybe it's just because the writers had been exposed to the film medium and naturally maybe gravitated towards that. Whereas the classical stuff, you can't,
Cast of Thousands, right?
Yes, Cast of Thousands. And, once upon a time, you and I would not be having this conversation in front of an audience,
That is true.
You wouldn't be directing and you wouldn't have actresses.
No, we would not. I know, we'd be home doing laundry or something.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's why you don't see as much classical theater on film, is because it's, it's either an epic or, like you said, Cast of Thousands or...
I have to say, and I know there are lots of differences of opinions about it, but I really enjoyed the Macbeth with Fassbender. I think there was a bit of critique of it didn't hold on to enough of Shakespeare's language.
Right.
But I mean, and I hope it's okay. There's no theater happening here, so I guess we
had
can
a
say,
debate about that last year, but we'll say Scottish play just to be sure.
But I had been in a production of it in high school, but it was so. Something that I thought was so brilliant about it was that. From even having seen multiple productions of it, having read the play so many times, in the film, and not that I'm not a huge fan of blood and gore, but you were able to just see the tribalism and the brutality and the nomadic lifestyle of these people. And of the clans and I don't know. I thought there was you understood the brutality of the world, at least for me, in a way that I had not ever seen on a stage production. Where if it's all on a stage, it feels somewhat safe and contained, but when you realize that their life is existing in the elements of the Highlands and the natural world and the supernatural world that exists in and around
the constant
world.
threats.
Yeah. That I thought that was it was that element of the film that I know for me at least was a different window into that universe.
Well, being a theater, did you see, were you here at the festival last year?
I was for part of it, yeah.
Okay, so we got to talk to a team that had a film called Ghostlight. Oh. Did you see it?
I didn't. I wanted to.
Oh my gosh.
I did not. It was on my, I
think you would love it. I think you would love it. Okay, so it is a community theater, a traveling kind of community theater group that is presenting the Scottish play.
Right, yes.
And things go awry.
Oh, gosh.
Because somebody invokes the curse.
Right, because somebody did that.
Somebody summons the witches. And it's like, watch it. You'll have to find it in the next week or so, because it's the perfect Halloween movie.
That's
As
amazing.
a theater person, you would the little bits. You'd be like, I see you. I see you.
And actually, here in the Driscoll a year ago, Filigree co-produced with another company here in Austin, Passes Prologue, to do the Scottish play In the Dark upstairs in I think it was the Citadel room.
Oh gosh.
Jen Sterling, who is a friend of Filigree and has worked. Directed for us as a guest director, directed it, and it was it was right here in the haunted Driscoll. But I think because of that, we're like, this is about to go up. I was like, Ghostlight, I have to see it. And then I think I was home with my daughter, but
we'll have to locate it for you.
I would love that. I would absolutely love to see that.
We'll Google after this and find it. When I was at school, we had our theater group. We had the theater department, they just kind of gave us a project on Halloween, and it ended up becoming kind of a tradition. We had our provost was from Scotland, and luckily was pretty much down for whatever nonsense the students wanted to come up with, and he was a geologist.
Cool.
So he'd started at the university as a professor of geology, and so we had this. He had set up this rock formation that we called Froghenge, but it was a rock circle just in the middle of the lawn. You know, why we needed it to be there, I don't know.
Because who doesn't need like a
but
ancient rock circle?
But a boulder circle there in the middle of the campus. It was fine. So we decided we were going to stage the witching scene from the Scottish play.
Amazing.
In the middle of the rock circle at midnight on Halloween with our Scottish provost. And he wore his kilt and everything. It was awesome. And they recruited some of the dance department. They were up in the trees around the circle, and we built a fire in the middle of it. Oh my gosh.
Brilliant.
It was
like, it is the Feast of Samhain.
Oh my gosh. It was, and we were so proud because like the whole student body turned out. They ended up doing extra performances and everything. And for some reason, Dr. Donovan was totally cool with us building fires in the middle of his Holy Scottish Rock Circle.
Sure. That's really cool. I would love that.
The power of the Scottish play.
It is, right?
Well, tell me what you're doing. Like, what is upcoming for you? Because you got the rest of your season ahead of you.
We do, yes. So our winter show, which will be coming up early in the new year, it's going to be an adaptation of, or it's Jeffrey Hatcher did an adaptation, speaking of scary things, of Turn of the Screw. But in the playwright author's note at the beginning of the play, it says, no sound design, no props, minimal set. If you can, just do it with one chair, two actors, leave everything up to the imagination. And so I'm planning to stage that in the round. And, and as much as I can have like practical lights of lanterns and candles and like spooky midwinter darkness. Leave the ghosts.
Sometimes those minimalist special effects are a lot creepier than anything techie. Yes, right? Exactly.
Our imaginations are more powerful. I think like the cat people. That movie was the thing. Like, if you don't see our Jaws, right? Because it kept breaking down that they're like, we're never going to see this shark, and it'll be scary as anything.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So do you have what's your spring play then?
The spring play is still to be announced.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you picked it out and you're just not telling?
I've been talking to a couple different playwrights and
oh, that's right. It's a world premiere. It'll be a world premiere.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it will be all the fear and fearlessness.
Does that put a lot of pressure on you as a director being someone's world premiere?
It's exciting. It's thrilling. It's also, of course, terrifying, and you want to do a great job. But I've been lucky in that I have had great collaborations with playwrights of kind of, and some plays had been workshopped before, or there have been readings. But maybe had written a few years ago, and now they're coming back to it. Our play last year, our spring play, which we did here in Austin, then we took it to Los Angeles this summer. So it was great. It was sort of like a rolling world premiere. It was almost like previews here in Austin, and then I got to like do a few more notes and for LA. Lila Rose Kaplan is the playwright, and we had such a wonderful collaboration. She was able to come down to Austin for a few days and be in the rehearsal room and rework some things. Had questions for me. I had questions for her. We had lunch at Josephine House. Hey. It was like a nice kind of one of those sort of dream collaborations.
Yeah,
things.
perfect.
So it's pressure, but it's I think, but happily in those kind of situations, it's like we're not doing it alone. It's like we are all like we're all birthing this thing together,
Yes.
or like creating this.
We
thing
will fumble through the.
Yes,
we'll
yeah,
fumble along
and,
this
you know,
road.
and support each other, and and it's exciting to kind of bring it to life together.
What about you? What do you have kind of personal projects coming up? Like, what is in the future?
So there was a movie, a teeny tiny feature film that we shot last summer. That it is finished. It is being color corrected. Like, that's the final thing, is like color correction right now. So that's done. Personal projects. I don't have a 7-year-old.
You're like,
raising my child.
I really want to learn to cook gluten-free this year.
No, I have, and I'm hoping to have time to go back to it. I've taken a few flamenco classes here, which is
fun.
great. It's so fun.
That sounds fun.
It's such a. Many years ago, I was in Spain and got to go to the Museum of Flamenco. And
that's cool.
Growing up, I studied at Martha Graham, and flamenco is definitely one of her influences for the contemporary dance. And I'm like, oh, some of this movement feels like strangely like muscle memory, very familiar. So I've taken a few classes, and I'm excited to be like, no, this is my flamenco time. I'm sorry, I can't have a meeting then.
It's not gonna work. Not gonna. Hey, self-care. All right. So before we go, can people catch up with you online on social media? Where can they find out more?
So our Filigree has a website, Filigree Theater with an R-E. So it's Filigree Theater, Theatre.
The right way to spell it.
The theater way. And then also on Instagram and Facebook too.
Awesome.
I think one might be like Filigree Theater Austin, and might be Filigree Theater. Just if you just search it, then
no flamenco information there though. You'll just have to Google.
I know. Oh my gosh, that'll be great. Maybe season 4 would be like, it's all flamenco.
It's all flamenco inspired.
Yes, totally.
I would love it.
Like
maybe one flamenco and one like the traditional. We can do Scottish play with traditional Scottish dancing.
Oh, that would be so cool. Like Highland, or like it's all. It's
with
so interesting,
swords and
right?
everything.
Totally, because it's very like vertical, right? The movement.
It's divided into the.
Yeah.
Good times. All right, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a blast. Thanks.